extra-biblical writings. This would be literary evidence, slightly different than archaeological evidence. I'm actually talking about things that have been written down in ancient literature that actually still survives to this day. Many people do not realize this, but there are dozens of writings outside of the Bible that verify the historical accuracy of many of the persons, places, and events mentioned in the Bible. In fact, external sources verify that at least 80 persons mentioned in the Bible were actual historical figures. 50 people from the Old Testament are actually mentioned outside of the Bible, and 30 people mentioned in the New Testament are actually talked about outside of the Bible. At one time, some critics had suggested that Jesus himself never existed, that he was an invention of some clever deceivers in the first century. Well, this was absurd and only demonstrated their ignorance of the facts. Flavius Josephus was a first-century Roman historian. He was a contemporary with the disciples. He lived at the same time the original disciples did. He mentions more than a dozen individuals mentioned in the New Testament, including John the Baptist, Herod the Great, and even Jesus. He was not a Christian, but listen to what he said. This is an excerpt from one of his writings. It's one of a couple of places where he actually mentions Jesus. He says, quote, "At this time there was a wise man who was called Jesus, and his conduct was good, and he was known to be virtuous, and many people from among the Jews and other nations became his disciples. Pilate condemned him to be crucified and to die, and those who had become his disciples did not abandon his discipleship. They reported that he had appeared to them after his crucifixion and that he was alive." That sounds like it could be right out of the Bible. He mentions that Jesus lived, that he was known to be good and virtuous, that he was crucified, and that his disciples were preaching that he had actually been raised back to life. There is overwhelming evidence that Jesus existed. In fact, there are 39 sources. That's a good number to jot down for you note takers. There are 39 sources outside of the Bible within 150 years of Jesus' life that reveal to us more than 100 facts about the life, teachings, death, and resurrection of Jesus. 39 sources within 150 years that reveal more than 100 facts. All right, a fifth reason you can be confident that the Bible is what it claims to be is the Bible's amazing scientific accuracy and foresight.